Welcome back, guys. In the last video, we were talking about how to find slope and rate of change when given a graph or multiple coordinate points. This time what we're going to do is we're going to find the rate of change or the slope when given a table. Okay. Now, right down here, I already have it set to say m equals. Well, what is m? Well, m is another way of saying rate of change or slope. Okay, they're represented by the letter m. So m is our slope. Now, when we have a table, one thing we could do is we could use the slope formula, which is what we talked about last time. Okay, our slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Or in other words, the change in y over the change in x. So it can also be written as the change in y over the change in x. All right, so we're seeing how much it changes in y and dividing by how much it's changing in x to find out what is our rate of change every one x value. So after we go an interval of 1 unit, how much is it changing every time? So right here in our first table, let's use our slope formula. So we'll take two y coordinates. Well, let's say this is my first one. We can do it randomly. You can pick any of them. We'll say this is the first one that I select. And so we'll say right here, get our fraction going. Y2. We'll just say this is the second one then, instead of the first one. So we'll say 5 minus, and we can pick any of these other ones. Let's go with 9. So 5 minus 9. Okay, and on the bottom, well, we have to put the x in line with the y that we chose. So here, the x has to go with it. So right here, when y is 5, x is negative 1 for this table. So when y is 5, x is negative 1. And then we're going to subtract the x from our other y value we selected. We selected 9. And so the 1 went with the 9, so 1 goes below it. And of course, we're subtracting. So 5 minus 9 is going to give me a negative 4. And negative 1 minus 1 gives me a negative 2. So then I simplify this. What's negative 4 divided by negative 2? Well, the negatives are going to cancel each other out because a negative divided by negative is a positive. So m equals positive 4 over 2, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So m equals 2. Now, another way that we can solve this is we can find our first differences. Okay, to do that, okay, and this is what I like to use with tables. I like to use the first differences. So to find the first difference, draw a little arrow connecting these two, pointing off to the side. If you look at that, it looks a little bit like a triangle. All right, kind of like a triangle over here. So the difference in y, okay, the difference in y from 3 to 5. Well, how far apart are those? What's the difference between them? Okay, so 5 minus 3, or 3 minus 5, either way. I like to keep it a positive number though when I write these. So 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. So I go with the positive, which is 2. Now I got to see, are all these the same number? Are they all going to be constant over here? So 5 minus 7 is negative 2, but again, I said I'm going to keep it a positive. So I just knock off the negative number, because if I went the other way, 7 minus 5, it would give me positive 2 as well. From 7 to 9, we have 2, and from 9 to 11, we also have a difference of 2. Okay, so our differences are the same here. They're all constant. So now I need to know, is my change in x constant on this side? So what are these? Difference between negative 2 and negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 to 0 is 1. 0 to 1 is 1. And 1 to 2 is also 1. So here's what we do here. We say these were all the same number, so were these. Okay, the 2 stayed the same, the 1 stayed the same. Now what I do is I take my change in y, okay, the change in y, which is 2, and I divide it by the change in x, which is 1. Okay, so we get the change in y over the change in x, which in this case is 2 over 1, which equals 2. So again, it matches up, m equals 2. So you can do it either way. If you like doing the coordinates, guys, that's fine. Plug it into the slope formula right here. If you want to do the first differences, that works as well. Okay, either way, whichever way you like the most, you go with it. Okay, run with whatever way you like most and then stick with it. Now, another thing you have to do though when you do first differences is you have to make sure that they're going the same direction. What I mean by that is looking at this table, which direction are we going for the x's? Which way is increasing? So I'm going to draw an arrow where it's increasing. So let's see, negative 2, negative 1. Okay, I'm increasing. going down. So these numbers down here are larger than the ones up top. Okay, 2 is more than -2. So my arrow's drawing towards the larger numbers. Here, 3 to 11, well again, larger numbers are going downwards down here. These two arrows match. If they're matching arrows, then it'll be a positive number. Okay, it'll be a positive slope. If the arrows are both going up, they're still matching, it'll be a positive number. Now, if the arrows are different, if one arrow is going down and one arrow is going up, then it's going to be a negative value here for our slope. Okay, so make sure to check that, guys. Make sure to check that. Let's jump over here to number 3. Let's do this one. But we've had plenty of practice using this method here for the slope formula. So let's actually look at using our differences, using our first differences. So right here, from -17 to -13, we have a gap or a difference of 4. On this side, 1 to 2, we have a gap of 1. The change in y divided by the change in x. Okay, so the change in y divided by the change in x is 4 over 1. And then I look at where is it increasing? 1, 2, 3, so we're increasing going down. On this side, over here, -17, -13, we're getting to smaller negatives, and the smaller the negative, the higher the number, okay, the greater the amount. So these arrows are the same, both pointing down, so this is going to be positive. So we get m equals 4 over 1, which reduces to 4. That's our slope, or our rate of change for this table for number 3. Okay? Now let's check number 4 over here real quick. Doing the same thing. First differences. So -6 to -5, that's a jump of 1, or a difference of 1. -4 to -9 is a jump of 5. Let's see, -6, -5, -4, increasing going in this direction. And over here, it's actually decreasing. The smaller negative numbers are actually larger than the higher negative numbers. -24 is going down more than -4. So now we have opposite arrows. They're different. So this is actually going to be a negative slope. And again, the change in y divided by the change in x, and we get m equals -5 over 1, which reduces to 5. So the slope for this one, or the rate of change of this table, is m equals -5. Okay, so that's how we would find slope or rate of change from a table. Let's go and look at a little bit different. Let's go back and look at, well, just some different tables. What if the intervals are different? Because for the ones we just looked at, all of our x values were jumping by 1s. So let's see what happens if they don't jump by 1s. How's it going to be a little different? Okay, because they don't always have an interval of 1, guys. You do have to check that left side. So right here for number 9, let's see what happens. First differences. From 10 to 5, we have a difference of 5. From -5 to -2, we have a difference of 3. Okay, I draw my arrows in the middle. -5 to -2. Well, the -2 is larger, right? Because it's a more positive number. It's closer to 0 than -5 is. So we're increasing going in this direction. Over here, we're decreasing as we go down. So the increasing numbers are actually going up that direction because the 10 is larger than the 5. Different arrows, so it's going to be a negative slope. Change in y divided by the change in x right over here. So 5 on top, 3 on the bottom, and we said it's a negative number. So there we go. So our slope is -5 over 3. Now 5 over 3 does not reduce, and so that would be our final answer for that table. The rate of change, or the slope, is m equals -5 over 3. Okay, so it does depend, guys. You've got to plug this in. It's not always 1, so it's not just the answer here. Because again, if you look back, for this one the answer was 2. For this one the answer was 4. Here the answer was -5. The arrows, made it the negative because they were different. But you got to check what is the change in x, because sometimes it is different. Sometimes it is different. All right, now let's do a little recap from yesterday. Let's see if we still remember how to do slope from a graph. And again, there's multiple ways. You can use the slope formula, but if you remember the way that I like the most, I like to do rise over run. So let's look here at number 13. For rise over run, from this point to this point, it rises up once, so 1 divided by, and then it runs across 1, 2, 3 spaces or 3 units. So we get 1 over 3. So m equals 1 over 3 for this, right? No, don't let it catch you off guard. You forgot to check the slope. Remember slope guy? Okay, remember slope guy. Oh, I didn't draw him the prettiest today. That's okay. So right here, this eyebrow looks like that line, right? It's this eyebrow right here. And that is a negative slope because from left to right, it is decreasing. From left to right, it is decreasing. And so this would be a negative slope, so negative 1/3. Okay, you got to be careful there, guys, because if it was positive 1/3, it would have looked more like that. It would have been increasing from left to right. So be careful. Let's check over here. Right away, I can tell it's increasing from left to right, so this one's going to be a positive slope. Okay, so my slope is going to be positive, or my m is going to be positive. From this coordinate to this coordinate, what's our rise over run? So let's see. 1, 2, 3. So 3 is our rise, and our run is 1. It's 3 over 1. And that reduces. 3 over 1 reduces to 3. And again, I double check. Yes, it was a positive slope, so m equals positive 3. All right, guys, so your code word for the day. Okay, so your code word for this video is going to be slope. Your code word for this video is going to be slope. All right, now I hope this video really helped you guys to remember about, to kind of just refresh about finding the slope from a graph and then finding the slope or the rate of change from a table now. Okay, now again, you can use either the slope formula or you can use the first difference, the change in y divided by change in x. Use whichever one that you like the most, guys. All right, good luck.